Welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. In today's video, we are going to add the first 20 cards to our Momir Vig Cube with a converted mana cost of 3. What's up, MTGBC? That is the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome back for another installment in our Momir Vig Cube series. If you miss what we're trying to accomplish with this series, please seek out the link in the description below of MTG Burgeoning's introduction to the Momir Vig variant. Let me know what you think about that, and then come on back as we're going to install the first 20 cards with a CMC value of 3. Additionally, you can also check out the description below and find the link to Cube Cobra, which also will display the contents of the cube so far. Now let's get right to it with our first creature with a mana value of 3, and that is the Adaptive Automaton. It's a 2/2 construct that says when it ETBs, we choose a creature type. Adaptive Automaton is the chosen type in addition to being a construct, and other creatures we control of the chosen type get +1/+1. So there is the potential, although it is not, I wouldn't say it's a coin toss that it would happen, but there is the potential that your 1-drop and 2-drop may share the same creature type. That would be very beneficial because then you can drop down Adaptive Automaton and act as a lord for each creature of the chosen type. However, more likely it's going to work for 1, but still having a lord come into play on turn 3, buffing one of your 1 or 2 drops, that's a good way to start off a multiplayer game of Momir Vig. Adaptive Automaton is creature number 1. Creature number 2 should not exist. I'm going to explain to you why. Aerial Responder. It's a 3-drop for 2/3 with 3 keywords: flying, vigilance, lifelink. This is just an uncommon. Flying, vigilance, lifelink with a 2 for a 2/3. That's just ridiculous. There are not going to be many creatures that are going to have a bigger impact from the 3 slot than Aerial Responder in this cube. He would be a fantastic number 3 creature to drop down onto your battlefield. Creature number 3 is Agitator Ants. It's a 2/2 insect that reads at the beginning of our end step. Each player may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature they control. Goad each creature that had counters put on it this way. If you are unfamiliar with the goad mechanic, that means that until our next turn, those creatures attack each combat if able and attack the player other than you. So if we're sitting down to a multiplayer game of Momir Vig, which we're trying to build a cube for, the Agitator Ants the Agitator Ants end step ability can really create some combat shenanigans between and among all of our opponents. And it also will buff up one of our creatures as well. That's a nice little combat trick to have, because those creatures that our opponents are getting bigger, they're not coming our way. At least if they're accepting the +1/+1 counters, they're not. Creature number 4 is Akum Stonewaker. 2/1 with the landfall mechanic, because hopefully you're playing a land every single turn. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2 in a red. So again, make sure that basic land deck has yourself some mountains. If you pay this 2 in a red, you may create a 3/1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste that gets exiled at the beginning of the end step. This could be a card that could shift the game in your favor, because in Momir Vig, you can only summon 1 creature per turn. With the landfall ability of this human shaman, however, you have the ability to put an extra creature into play if you have the mana available to do so. Akum Stonewaker could be a sneaky good hit in this Momir Vig cube. All right, creature number 5. Emmett Eternal. It's a 5/5 with Afflict 3. And for anyone who's not familiar with the Afflict mechanic back from the days of Hour of Devastation and Amonkhet, well, Afflict reads whenever this creature becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life. So you're taking a 5/5 or you're blocking it and losing 3 life. Will it be a 5/5? Well, we're not too sure about that, because whenever an opponent casts a spell, we put a -1/-1 counter on Emmett Eternal. And if we're sitting down at a table with 3 other opponents, it may not be likely that we'll have any success with this creature on the battlefield under our control. However, as I will point out now, and as we'll see as we continue with this series, not every creature included in the cube is going to be beneficial to summon. More on that as this series continues. The last block of text reading here for that zombie crocodile demon says, whenever Emmett Eternal deals combat damage to a player, remove all -1/-1 counters from it. So I think if we're able to swing in and maybe one of our other creatures can give Emmett Eternal some protection or maybe some kind of evasion, we can get those -1/-1 counters off of it, and maybe it can be a little more threatening in combat. Once we can get a 5/5 onto if we can get the -1/-1 counters off, well, we're just going to have to see. Like I said, not every creature included in the cube is uber helpful. All right, creature number 6, we have the Angel of Vitality, a 2/2 flyer that reads, if we were to gain life, we gain that much life +1 instead. An Angel of Vitality gets +2/+2 as long as we have 25 or more life. In Momir Vig, we start with 24, so as long as we gain 1 life, we are summoning a 4/4 flying angel for the investment of 3 mana. Not bad numbers at all. Angel of Vitality has a place in this Momir Vig Cube. Creature number 7 is our first multicolored creature of the day, and oh baby, is it a doozy. Animar, Soul of Elements. We've got a teamer creature here for 1/1 that has protection from white and black, so that could be inordinately valuable both in an offensive and defensive way. Whenever we cast a creature spell, we're going to put a +1/+1 counter on Animar, and hopefully we're casting a spell every turn, because at maximum we can only cast 1 creature spell per turn. As an additional bonus, creature spells we cast cost 1 less to cast for each +1/+1 counter on Animar. So that will go to help us summon creatures from the Momir Vig Cube way ahead of curve. If Animar is our 3-drop, and we cast a 4-drop our next turn and a 5-drop after that, Animar is going to have 2 +1/+1 counters on it. If we play a land during that next turn, we are going to be able to cast one of the 8 CMC or more creatures from the Momir Vig Cube on turn 5. So that is going to be, or on turn 5 or 6, depending on what we end up casting. So Animar, Soul of Elements could be a game-ending creature if we can get it onto the battlefield. All right, creature number 8, we have the Archetype of Aggression, an enchantment creature. It's a 3/2 and says creatures we control have trample. So we got that much desired evasion, so we can send our army into combat and trample over all of our creatures, all of our opponent's creatures, because they all have trample. And as an additional bonus, creatures our opponents control, if they have trample, they ain't got it anymore, and they can't have or gain trample. So Archetype of Aggression, even though it is a creature and is an enchantment creature, for the purposes of this Momir Vig deck, we can look at this as a primal rage mechanic where it gives all of our creatures trample, with an additional bonus of if any of our opponents have trample, they don't have it anymore. Archetype of Aggression is creature number 8. Staying with the theme of archetypes, we have Archetype of Courage. 2/2 enchantment creature. Creatures we control have first strike, and creatures our opponents control lose first strike and can't have or gain it. So this, of course, is similar to the Archetype of Aggression, except it's not dealing with trample, it's dealing with first strike. All right, here we go. The first half is completed. Here is number 10, Architect of the Untamed, a 2/3 Elf Artificer Druid that reads, whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, we get an energy. Yes, MTGBC, there is energy all throughout this cube. Pay 7 energy, create a 6/6 colorless beast artifact creature token. Oh man, the landfall ability here of just getting an energy is beneficial enough. However, to just pay the 7 and create that massive beast, that could tip the scales of war into our favor, because remember, as we've been driving the point home, you can only summon one creature per turn in Momir Vig. All right, beginning the second half of this installment of cards, we have creature number 11. We have Arctic Aven. It's a 2/1 flyer that gets +1/+1 as long as you control a plains. Also, you can tap a white mana, and Arctic Aven gains lifelink until end of turn. So make sure that land deck has those plains, because if they do, then you're getting a 3/2 flying lifelink, or you get a 3/2 that you can activate with lifelink, and that could really help swing the game, particularly when we're only starting with 24 life. All right, creature number 12. We have Arnie Brokenbrow. We got a... Come on, camera, get in the game. There we go. We got a 3/3 haster with the Boast mechanic. And this mechanic is only going to cost us 1 colorless mana. We may change Arnie Brokenbrow's base power to 1, plus the greatest power among other creatures we control until end of turn. So again, this is all going to come down to the numbers in combat. If we can get Arnie attacking and he's unblocked, I can't imagine he would be unblocked, but you never know with some of the other creatures that we are going to have in this cube. So if we're able to do that, then we can really swing some of the life total down from our opponents by activating its Boast mechanic, because we can only activate it if this creature attacked, and only once per turn. So Arnie Brokenbrow gives us the potential to pull off some combat chicanery. All right, creature number 13, we have the Augmenter Pugilist. It's a 3/3 trampler for 3. However, if we have 8 or more lands, it gets +5/+5 and becomes an 8/8 trampler. So with Augmenter Pugilist, we're trying to play the long game with it. And your 8/8 trampler for an investment of 3 mana could pay off huge dividends towards the end of the game. It is a transforming card, but that does not apply to this cube, as we're only concerned with creatures. Next creature up, we have our second artifact creature of this series, of this installment, and that's the Oreok Replica. All right, it's a 2/2 cleric. We can tap a white. Again, make sure that basic land deck has your white mana. We can sacrifice Oreok Replica to prevent all damage a source of our choice would deal to us this turn. So this definitely has some defensive purposes. I can foresee in the future, if this creature is on the battlefield under a player's control, you chump block one creature with this, and if it's going to die anyways, you tap that white, you sacrifice it, and prevent all damage that would be dealt by another attacking creature. So Oreok Replica is definitely included in this cube more for its defensive purposes than its offensive ones. All right, this is number 15 as we reach to the 3/4 mark of this video. Awakener Druid, 1/1 human druid. Not much to look at here, folks. However, the wall of text says it all. When Awakener Druid enters the battlefield, target forest becomes a 4/5 green treefolk creature as long as Awakener Druid is on the battlefield. It's still a land. BC, make sure you have a forest in that basic land deck. Or, if you want to get a little more maniacal with it, target one of your opponent's forests with it. Make it a 4/5 creature, and if you have a creature with an activated ability that can destroy another creature, well, you just got rid of one of their lands. All right, creature number 16, we have Ayara, First of Lochthwain. 2/3, whenever she or another black creature enters the battlefield under our control, each opponent loses 1 life and we gain a life. We can tap and sacrifice another black creature to draw a card. Ayara will only be as beneficial as the number of black creatures we can summon, so we really have to hope that we can, against most odds, get some more black creatures into play so that we can take advantage of Ayara. Next up, we have the Bane Whip Punisher. This is a 2/2 human warrior. When it ETBs, we may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Tap a black. Again, make sure that basic land deck has some swamps. Sacrifice Bane Whip Punisher. Destroy target creature that has a -1/-1 counter on it. Yes, similar to the +1/+1 theme that's going to be included in this deck, there will also be -1/-1 counter themes. Bane Whip Punisher removal in an entire cube that doesn't have any instant or sorcery spells. All right, next up from the 3-drop position, we have Banisher Priest. When it ETBs as a 2/2 human cleric, exile target creature an opponent controls until Banisher Priest leaves the battlefield. However, we need to modify this a little bit, because every creature that comes into play in Momir Vig is a token copy of the true creature. So every creature that's in play is a token. So Banisher Priest should read, for all intents and purposes of this Momir Vig Cube, when it enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls. Because once a token leaves the battlefield, it ceases to exist. So Banisher Priest can come down and get rid of a creature, and it never comes back. That is some great removal in a cube that is not built with removal. Speaking of which, and I'll tell you right now, if this creature gets summoned to the battlefield, it might be lights out for the entire board. And that's Bane, Master Wizard. It's a 1/1. We can tap 2 to sacrifice a permanent to return target creature to its owner's hand. Again, everything I said with Banisher Priest applies with Bane, Master Wizard. When that creature leaves the battlefield from the bounce ability of Bane, it ceases to exist. It's not like the card is going to remain in your hand to be cast later in the game. It no longer exists, so Bane can just sit back and pick off creatures for as long as we have permanents on the battlefield. Very, very powerful this Master Wizard is. All right, BC, we are down to creature number 20, and here it is. The 20th mana value 3 creature is Batter Shield Warrior. It's a 2/2 with the boast mechanic. It's 1 and a white. Make sure you got those planes, MTGBC. When we boast, creatures we control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Again, so much of what Momir Vig is comes down to combat math. And if we have any abilities that can make our creatures just a little bit bigger than our opponents, that can go a long way to ensuring victory. Batter Shield Warrior is creature number 20 in the CMC3 spot. And there we have it, BC. We are 3 episodes in to this Momir Vig series. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic.